there in India and you began to weep. A purification took place. A blessing came to you because of the power of that temple. That's what it's for. It's to prepare you so that you can receive, just as I did when I was with Swamiji the first time. He had to clear out all that crap that was in me so I could hear the real words of what he wanted to say to my heart. And that's what life will do to you at times. It will give you a concussion. You'll lose a job. No, through no fault of your own. Somebody wanted to get rid of you because you were in the way. But you didn't see it coming. You couldn't have seen it coming. And all of a sudden, why does the world do this? Why is God so mean to me? No. Something else is going to open to you. That chapter is over. Let it go. Close it. Now write the new chapter. Because if you cling to it, then you're saying that's all I ever could be. And that's the biggest trap. Don't let that side of Maya get you. Because sooner or later you're going to say, why am I doing this to myself? Finally, it's just taken a long time. So we have to realize that in finding our future, it's not a smooth sail. But it's an important series of episodes, events that are going to come in and shake you up. They're meant to. But you're more than being shaken up. You're more than any event, however disastrous or joyful. You're made for infinity. You don't know what that means. I don't either. We know what finiteness is. And if you keep adding up finite, you don't get to infinity. It's a different realm. It's a different way of looking at life. And so yoga comes in and says, hey, I see you're kind of interested in that. Would you like to perhaps try out a few things and maybe you can get a glimpse? At least more than what you've been having? Sure. So then suddenly we're given meditation. Meditation is like the magic carpet that lifts us off the gravity of life and makes us realize we're a citizen of another world. Not just this one where the marketplace prevails. We're a citizen of an unusual world that has wonders in it. And that's what's meant to happen. And as we begin to open up and incorporate that dimension, then we're finding out things about our future that we never even suspected. So your ability to be surprised, to wonder, with the accompaniment of gratitude, that is one of your protections. That the ego doesn't get in its own way. Because that's all it does. It just trips itself up. It's not bad. It's stupid. It takes less than what it should. It suspects it's more, but it won't do the work to get there. Okay, then stay in your discomfort. So pain, in a sense, too, can be your ally. It can be a prop. Think for a moment what it was like to be in the body of Helen Keller. You couldn't see. You couldn't hear. And you had all that vital force inside of a young girl. She was like a raging animal. She didn't know how to connect. She could feel reality. She could feel vibrations. But she didn't know what that meant. That all had to be ordered in such a way. And she became a magnificent saint. I'm convinced she was a realized yogi. Chose that body to teach us. I often think about people sometimes who are caught in that situation. How come? And as Swamiji once said to me, said to many of us, when we had a lady like that who was under a tremendous handicap, he said, wait a minute. You don't realize this woman is a realized yogi who came not for herself, but for you, Anne, who's taking care of her, so that you'd learn to love. That's the hardest thing for the ego to learn. It can't help but love itself. We call it self-protection. That's normal. That's healthy. And you never want to get rid of it, because if you do, you won't be able to love anybody else. But there's something special about the ego, that it can expand. It can expand beyond itself. It has to learn that, and often has to learn it the hard way. The moment you have a child, you understand what that means. Because now you have a reality that's always demanding your attention. Ooh. You can't say, well, I'll take care of you only between these hours today, honey. It doesn't work that way. The child needs you 24 hours a day. That ego of yours has to expand. And it will. It'll call it out. And that's what reality does. Reality is, we think, forces itself upon us, but really it beckons. It whispers sometimes even. It says, come on, stretch, enlarge. Try. I'll help you. And so our finite sense of self, which is so conscious of its separateness, and is so ruthless at times in its attempt to make itself so distinguished, we know who they are, distinguished from all others. It has to learn how to gain a harmony. It has to overcome its self-aggrandizement. It has to emancipate itself from the borders of however it feels it's so glorious, into the realization of that magnificent truth that you're more than your ego. We don't abolish it, we transform it. We bring it into a harmony with the ultimate spirit, the Atman, the self. And when those two connect, a marriage is formed, and oh boy, watch out. Now you've got a genius. Now you've got a Swami Rama. When Swami Rama was touched by his master, he went into a state of meditation for 9 consecutive hours without a break. When he came out, he thought only a few minutes had passed. But what he saw, he said, was indescribable. I didn't want to leave it. But then he noted 2 things. His life had radically changed. He said, I lost 2 things. 1, all my fears and all my selfishness. That's what the self is leading the ego to. At first you have to build up enough selfishness that you can deal with life. Then you have to learn to go beyond it. You need a strong ego to deal with the roughage of living. And then you have to learn how to expand past that. You have to learn how to give up those ways, because they're not always the best ways. When needed, they're there. But it's not the way to build a life, ultimately. And so how do we approach things? Well, maybe we could do it along these lines in finding our future. There was once a master carver who made a magnificent arch over the front gate of the garden of the prince. When people looked at this magnificent arch, they were enthralled with the contours, the blending of the woods, how the edges came together in a seamless symmetry. There seemed to be almost a sheen coming off the wood. It was such a precious sight. And everyone who saw it was astounded, to such a degree that they said it must have been the work of spirits, not of a mortal. And the prince came out one day to visit the master carver and said, "What's your secret?" And she replied, "I'm only a workwoman. I have no secret. There is this, though. When I begin to think about the work you commanded, I guarded myself. I didn't expend my energies on trifles that were not to the point. I even fasted in order to get my heart set in the right way. And after 5 days, I noticed I had forgotten